Top Lines and Tales, your favorite livestock show. Top Lines and Tales, we talk to folks who know. Top Lines and Tales, sponsored by Harbro.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to us. Happy birthday, Top Lines and Tales. Yes, it's our birthday and we're 5. Yes, 5 years old. Who would have thought it when I started out with an idea those 5 years ago and all went wrong and thought it would be 5 minutes it all would last. And here we have, and all you lovely listeners out there who stayed with us all that time and more, and we've grown and we've become something quite good, I think. And Top Lines and Tales, happy birthday to us. And of course, we couldn't have got this far, and we wouldn't, and without that special help and that special partnership with those great guys there at Harbro. So thank you to Harbro for all the support that you've put to the Top Lines and Tales podcast over these years. This week on Top Lines and Tales, this episode, we're going to celebrate by doing something different and quite special, I think, as I'm going to be introducing to you something new, which we're going to launch today on this podcast. And that's going to be something musical, but don't worry, you won't have to listen to me singing. We're also going to have a special guest on this week's programme, and that special guest is actually going to be me. So hooray for me, and we have a very special guest presenter, my good friend Wallace Currie. There you go, Wallace. How about that for an intro? It's over to you now, pal.
Well, first off, thank you for what I've been told is applause. If Andy hasn't put the applause in, I'm going to look like a complete idiot here. But it's a pleasure to be on this side of Top Lines and Tales. Fantastic. I have been on the other side. Oh, let's see if I can test myself here, Andy. I should have checked this. I think I was 187, from memory. I came on. Yeah, it's a pleasure. I've also had the joy of interviewing Andy on my own brand. So we've built a relationship around audio and agriculture. But very excited to be here to be the question master for Andy, I guess. So I guess that the first thing to kick off with is we're here for a celebration. We're here for an anniversary, as it were. Andy was one of the first that I'm aware of to create an agricultural podcast. I think we're just over 5 years, Andy, is that right?
Mm-hmm. Just gone 5 years this last few days, yeah. So this is part of our my celebration, our celebration. There's a few people involved this end, but celebration of 5 years of this, which I thought would last 5 minutes, and here we are. So it's brilliant.
Well, let's take you back to that. What was the reason for starting a podcast? Why did that happen? And
COVID, I think COVID is, ridiculous that COVID was. When we look back at the lockdown situation, some opportunities came out from a massive adversity. There were opportunities that came out from the COVID, from the lockdown situation, and one of those was, we were looking for more ways to speak to each other. We're looking for the ways to communicate that maybe we shouldn't do. We found out about things like mental health that we didn't really know were there was mental health's always been there, I suppose, but suddenly it was there, and we realised a recognisable thing. Mental health, we need to be talking to each other, and it was also a friend of mine, Jack Ramsey, who had died just recently. He was in middle 60s, my go-to man for information about the agricultural, the livestock sector, which is something I've always been very much involved in. I just give Jack a ping and he say, oh yeah, it was so-and-so, this cow mated with this one and won this prize whenever, and Jack seemed to know everything. And those stories, we were starting to lose those stories when we lost Jack. So I think that was my reasoning for starting the podcast, and it just, as I said, came out of COVID as well, and there were people with nothing to do but maybe listen to things online, particularly farmers. And the first one we started, it was Royal Smithfield Week, which is coming up again now, and maybe go on to that in a second. The Royal Smithfield Show was my holiday, if you like, the thing I look forward to every year. So we went back to reminisce. I think the Smithfield Show had gone to 16 or 18 years since it was the last show, and all got back together with a couple of old mates and said, right, let's put some stories together about the Smithfield Show. And the first one I did with a couple of guys there, got the thing set up and all online, and got everybody online, three recognised retrobates friends, and we all got together with a podcast and chatted through, got to about 40 minutes, and realised the recording hadn't worked. And not only hadn't it worked, it wouldn't work. So I spent an hour trying to get trying to get the thing up and running. And during that hour, the three guys who hadn't spoke to each other for a month or two all got absolutely pissed sitting there drinking whiskey and sharing stories. And by the time I got them back on to re-record it again, they were all off their face. It was brilliant, and it just sort of threw together this camaraderie really, and everybody tuned in and said, "Wow, that's great." So I thought, well, there's a bit more in this, and that's how it went. And little did I know I'd be here 5 years' time. Little did I know the impact that something like a podcast like would have. And as I said, with regards to yourself, Wallace, with regards to the mental health and well-being, you've been involved in it too, and how that's something that was absolutely necessary, and it was a real linchpin. Lockdown was the linchpin to get that thing out in the open, wasn't it?
It just shows you how quick time has gone. I think, do you know, Andy, looking back to that time, I interviewed Bill Gray recently, and Bill was the both fortunate but also unfortunate RAS chair over the course of the Highland Show at COVID time.
Yeah.
And we are just sort of reminiscing about when it came out that the show wasn't going to be on 2020 and then subsequently 2021. And it was a good old dent to the heart. It was a big part of the year, and markets obviously, arguably more importantly. And as a man that's ever innovating, no matter what side of agriculture you're in, be that the media side, the showing side itself, a 5-year anniversary wasn't enough. So 5 years. How often do you upload, Andy?
Well, it's every couple of weeks now. It used to be every week. Now it's every couple of weeks.
So yeah, quite a lot of episodes in there at this stage. Any standout highlights for you?
Yes, lots, I suppose, and you'll be the same. But I think when early on I started covering the history of the particular breeds of livestock, and so I went through some of the old traditional breeds and started with the Angus and the Herefords and the Shorthorns, and some of the older breeds, Suffolks and Hampshires, and these breeds of sheep and cattle, and just going back and having to do the research on that. I mean, it was a back to school day for me, but something I really enjoyed, and the effort that I put into that, learning about these particular animals and then getting the right people in to talk about them, really opened my eyes to me. It was a fantastic education, and I learned a lot, and I think that led on to me being able to write a few books on on the history of some of these breeds as well, which was a great opportunity. So yeah, I made something out of that, and I made it work for me, I suppose. And also, I suppose, talking to the old guys, really. I mean, you'll be the same on yours, maybe, but I've spoken to a lot of older fellas that have been involved in the industry, and sadly, quite a few of those no longer here. And I feel that I've just captured their stories of these real old characters, or these real characters, should I say, who got old, and the stories that they had. And I feel proud, I suppose, that I've some of that's now on digital and will be preserved forever, and that little bit of history. And I think something to be proud of, and I know you do the same, Wallace.
It's funny that I mean that part's so nice. To my knowledge, none of the now 401 of my guests have passed, but there's someone said it to me recently about an episode who I'd filmed with a guy who spoke massively about a horrible mental health stage in his life, and we don't need to get into it because that's not what this is about. But I spoke. Just imagine how nice it is to look back and on that terrible journey, being able to talk about it, and then get the next stage of life is positive again. That being immortalized, and then also so many examples you have there, Andy, of people who have passed on and they've lived fantastic lives in our sector. For their family to have that however long chatting with you, to go listen to mum, dad, gran, whoever is lovely. Absolutely lovely.
It is superb, isn't it? I mean, you said just now you were 9 when the Smithfield show finished, and I mean, there's youngsters listening to this that wouldn't have even been born when those things happened, and hey, some of the ones get fed up with us talking about it because we reminisce about the show quite a lot. But it wasn't just that show; it's all the things that we did and got up to, and yeah, so the generations get cemented together. I think because there's youngsters coming in. I've seen it firsthand this weekend. I've been up in Aberdeenshire, and the young handlers there, young lads, 8 years old, coming into the industry, and you think that's brilliant. Now, me at 65, that generation gap is closing because we're all still together, but it'll close even more when there's youngsters coming on in 20, 30 years time that can pick up on history of people that were dead before they were born. So yeah, I think that's closed the gap. I think that's brilliant. The technology has afforded us that effort.
Before we get on to the point of, I guess, this episode, Andy, and in true top lines and tails fashion, I think we have to talk about your own showing career. You've had a pretty extensive showing career throughout your life, but you're still showing, is that right?
No, not really. I still, yes, right. I am still showing. Yes, you're correct. I'm out of the cattle. I did give a few guys a hand with the cattle now and again, but yes, we have a few pedigree sheep now because the bug never leaves you. And yeah, my wife and I enjoy taking the sheep out to a few shows, and we've only done a few of the major shows. We haven't sort of gone to all the shows like I used to when I was younger, and a lot of people still do. But absolutely love the buzz of preparing an animal and getting the animal to the show. Going in the show ring now probably was going in the show ring itself probably wasn't really my great thing. I was much happier putting it behind the scenes, and now there's a lot of youngsters that'll gladly go in the ring and do the parading and do the show work on that. But I was lucky to judge the YDP, so the Young Youth Development program for the Aberdeen Angus and other breeds are available. Which is in Aberdeen this a few 3-4 weeks ago, and to judge these youngsters coming in sections and the ring craft and the stuff they're doing in the ring. And, you know, I got them to take a halter off and put another one on and show an animal without a show stick, and I switched a few guys to different handlers, and to have 40, 50 of the elite youngsters in the country coming together in that, and I was pleased to pass on some of that knowledge that I've done. But you're right, yeah, I am still, I still. Yeah, I was lucky to win the Highland Show with our first year with showing Ryland sheep, and we'll be back to do that again, and got few good lambs coming through this year, so we'll see.
Well, that was kind of what I was hinting at. You know, I mean, just to say no, I'm not showing, but well, okay, I've won the Highland Show. My breed is it's quite a notable achievement, I would say. You've got a slightly different background to the time you and I recorded, Andy, and certainly when we done that, there was quite a few rosettes and quite and whatnot behind you. So yeah, it told the story, did that wall.
Yeah, I've got a background of the sea to me right now. I'm actually the wee cottage we have here right on the sea in Celladike in Fife. So I've literally, it's dark now, but you can't see, but I've got literally the window behind me. That's the North Sea. Well, that's the Firth.
So where is home, Scotland or France?
That's a question that I will answer in public. I was going to say I won't do. France has been our home for 20 years. Went there with the intention of spending more time there, less time here. And as the years have gone on, especially the last 2 or 3, spending more time here and less time there, to the point now where maybe that chapter in France is coming to an end. Intended to be there for 5 years, done 20 now. Wendy and I both come in 65 this year, so we still think we've maybe got another kick at the ball in us. So we're probably going to cash the house in France and move on and do something else, and maybe just get back more into probably more back into Scotland, maybe with a small holding or something like that. We haven't quite decided. So that's there you go, folks. That's you heard it here first. You might be seeing more of me on your doorstep. You never know. I might buy a farm next year. God help you.
back to the good weather, Andy. You know,
of course.
The good weather. So 5 years on, a lot of interviews done. A lot of people met, a lot of things learned, I'm sure, both for yourself and for guests, Andy. Not enough for you, though. Still got to add more in. Tell us about what this episode's about. What's your new project?
Well, it is something different to me, and it won't appeal to everybody because I've moved into to music, and I didn't move into music for agriculture. I've always been a massive music fan from seeing Pink Floyd in concert when I was in 1977, well, it's quite a while before you were born, and being a massive music fan. My mother was a music fan. There was always music played in the house. My mother was a good singer. Music was always part of my life, and I think to a lot of people that's the same. And being a writer, I've evolved into writing books and written 40-odd, but nearly 50 books, I think now, one sort or another. And I've always penned lyrics and put them down on paper, and I just thought, well, I've got my 2 nephews, both good musicians, and when they come and stay in France, I put some of these things to music, and one will sit and strum the guitar, the other one maybe with a few notes on the piano, and trying to get some of these things together in songs. And I was in a band when I was 16 or 17, whatever it was, and would love to, always wanted to take that a bit further. And we had a band which we called, well, the 2 nephews, we called this band Don't Lick the Toad. This is recently, there's reasons behind Don't Lick the Toad. There's a story behind that, but we never really had enough time together and it was to do these things. And it was frustrating. I'd try and do it myself with my cheap electric organ and sort of put some notes in, and then boom, the internet gods gave me a bit of a helping hand, really. And a few months ago, I discovered that there was stuff out there that I could utilize with technology to take some of these lyrics and put them into music, put them into tunes, put tunes together, and make them into songs, really. And within a week I'd put most of the lyrics that I had into different genres and got them out. It was so therapeutic. It was just fantastic. And just to suddenly start writing songs and using these tools. It was there was a whole stuff out there, people working in harmony with me, and that it's very often difficult to find people working in harmony with me. I've never really had a job, Wallace. I'm not maybe not the easiest person to work with, and people who didn't argue back, it was brilliant. And we started creating a few songs, and let make this clear that it's I've written the lyric. All the lyrics were written. I'm talking AI here, so technology. We're talking artificial intelligence, not artificial insemination intelligence. But make very clear that the lyrics that I've written they're written personally by myself, and they're all my inner self and inner feelings. Not getting AI to write the lyrics. I tried doing that with a book once and got AI to write it. They said use this technology and it'll write you a book, and the thing wrote me a book in 4 days, and then I read it was crap, so I had to burn it. But it was a lesson to know that the things were out there. You could say, write me what you'll know. Being a lecturer, you'll know exactly that these things happen. And that give it a subject and throw it into some AI app, and it'll write you 5,000 words, which is pretty good. I mean, they are bloody clever and learning all the time. Yes, this came along. We'll maybe have a chat a little bit towards the end of this. Wallace, about how AI is starting to work for people, and how the upside and the downside. And as I said, you'll see that in your life as a lecturer as well. You'll see the ups and the downs of AI, I'm sure.
Yeah, we absolutely can. There's a lot to it, but there's much more exciting stuff before we get to that. So I don't think you've said the name there, Andy. The Family Farm.
Oh, yeah, a project called The Family Farm. The title track is called the Family Farm, and something again very passionate about. I grew up on a family farm, as you did, Wallace, as well, and the family farm is still the backbone of British agriculture, of world agriculture. I think the family farm, and what's going on with the family farm now, trying to keep that surviving. We've got issues around inheritance tax. We've got issues around the functionality of it. We've got issues around the regulations around it, and the big guys taking on. And it's but the family farm is still very much integral part of agriculture, and something I'm quite I quite believe in. So when I said about this band Don't Lick the Toad, I basically moved on from that and said, well, what if I start writing some of these songs that would actually cement some of the feelings that I have and other people have around agriculture, and the messages maybe we can put out there, and people could listen to. So if I go into a bit more technical side of it, I suppose when I started bringing these tunes together, basically I'd write a lyric and then maybe in the morning and get an idea of how it would sound and know roughly the instruments they wanted to be in and the genre, and I could go through. I had this sort of team of people around me, if you like, where they would a full band, if you like. They'd put all this stuff together, and then nobody to argue back, and we just sort of put it all in. And the guys have got to pull their weight together. Somebody's got to do the singing, and somebody's got to do the music and what have you. And I could sit there and basically conduct all these instruments, but using machine to do it instead of using real people. And I'm very, very pleased and highly impressed how it's come on. And I'm sure if people have a listen, the same thing will struggle to believe that it's not really me singing there on some of these tracks. Well,
as someone that, if my girlfriend's listening to this, she'll tell you that I really struggle to take in lyrics. I love listening to tunes and instrumental and whatnot. So I've listened to about 3/4 of this because it takes me a long time to actually hear lyrics. I don't know why, it's just a personal thing, but there's a lot of heart, there's a lot of maybe a message to Rachel Reeves almost throughout this. There's you can tell that this hasn't been written by you can tell the instrumental has, but your heart is in this. But before I ask you some questions about some of the songs themselves, what is the story behind Don't Lick the Toad?
Oh, okay, I better divulge that. Well,
You've got to. You can't not.
It was quite simple. We were sitting around the swimming pool there in France, getting reasonably drunk one night, and we bought a terrier called Haggis. Haggis was out there, and this large toad that seems to come out in the evenings, and he literally is sort of 4 or 5 inches across, this guy, and he waddles out and sort of looks at us all, and the dog ran across and licked him for reasons that I don't know. I think there's some sort of fascination with everybody licking a toad. I think if you see a toad, it's like you've got to have this impulse not to lick this bloody thing. I don't know. I think do you ever find yourself drawn to licking a toad yourself, Wallace?
I feel like for the narrative, I should say yes.
So Haggis licked away at this toad. Next thing, she's foaming at the mouth and obviously having some hallucinogenic things. And my wife's very worried and saying we should send her to the vet. And I said no, she'll just. I think there's something hallucinogenic about the stuff that toads give off. So that's where it came from. It's like Haggis, stand away from the toad and don't lick it. So that's where that band. That's where that came.
Am I not right in saying you have two dogs as well called Neeps and Tatties?
No, I don't. No, not yet. Anyway, I don't. I have Haggis at the moment, but we are putting her in pup very shortly. So I think the two puppies may well be called that. So
Must have been someone else. I do apologise, but she said that rang a bell.
Natural progression.
For sure. Yeah. You got to get the Kranikin and whatnot soon as well. It's almost time of year for that. That's crazy.
Sure. And can I just go back through roughly before we go into I suppose the nuts and bolts of some of this record? Then I felt that some of these messages, we want to put out there, and we're going into winter, and it was about getting something upbeat, but as well as getting some, as you said, some messages to Rachel Reeves, and it's not meant to be an album of anarchy. I think my punk rock days are behind me a little bit, but it was about highlighting some ideas, but also about a feel-good side of it, if you like. And I mentioned the sort of mental health thing earlier on that has come into being, I suppose, not after COVID, but it's being more and more highlighted. And I've had a few associations with Farmstrong through my pal John Scott, and I spoke to John and I said, well, it would be something they'd like to be associated with as well, if we can sort of put that out there as a message. And I thought, well, as far as if I can put this out there and we can do some good by maybe selling a bit of the stuff as well and putting some money into their charity side of it, as well as endorsing that message. I think that was something that was I was looking forward to giving a little bit back to. So maybe we'll have a chat about Farmstrong, because I know you've been involved in them as well. And I tell you what I do, Wallace. I'll play a little bit just of one of the tracks of that called "The Family Farm," and let our listener have a little bit of a taste of what's going on, and we can have a chat through that.
To bring the youngsters in the farm is hard enough today, without a hefty penalty which someone has to pay.
So that was a little hint of Family Farm, the first song that comes up as part of the album. Bit of a political side to that, Andy. What's the plan with that song itself?
Yes, I think so. I mean, some folks drive their tractors to Whitehall, and some get arrested this week, which is pretty cruel, I think. And others rant on social media, and I think this was kind of my contribution, really, to the ludicrous way that the inheritance tax is being at the moment sort of pushed forward and squashing pushing the family farm, which I mentioned earlier on, is the backbone of our industry, and yeah, we've both worked amongst this, of course, on our podcast between us, and heard many views from other people as well, not just the budget. But we're not going to change that. I think the track works well, but it's something that's still hanging over us. I think we don't have any say over it, really, Wallace. But you've been involved, I'm sure, in discussions with people about this side of it, and I'm hoping my message is out there. We're all trying our own way, that we're all in the media that. To say what we think should be done or maybe shouldn't be done with regarding to the IHT.
Yeah, it is an interesting one. It's a very much in-depth discussion, especially now in the last 2 days at the time of recording, Andy. That the most recent budget post the IHT changes has now come out, and seeing that no changes to that, fair enough, I guess. But yeah, it's a worry for a lot of small to medium sized farms. I would say it's a scary time, and I think as an industry, the coming together that we've seen in Whitehall has been quite inspiring, to be honest. I've not been, because for a while I didn't know where I stood on it, to be honest, and I think now, I stand by those folk, and it's I think Labour's got a lot to answer for in a lot of regard, to be fair. But I'm not a political person, I must say. I am no expert in this regard.
I will say that neither am I when it comes to that. I mean, yes, I am putting forward a political message here, but I'm not out there, the Gareth Wynne-Jones and trying to sort of push this through. I think it's making a message, but it'd be nice to put that message out into the public eye a little bit, and who knows where that might, whose head that might get into. I suppose that this probably isn't the right way. And as you said, with you, I mean, I'm not directly involved in the inheritance tax. It doesn't affect me personally, but I do believe, as I said, the family farm needs to be preserved, and I think this, the inheritance tax thing isn't the right way of encouraging youngsters to come into the farm, which is what we really need. The only way we're going to keep the family farm business going and profitable is by bringing the youngsters in with the good ideas. And I think at the moment this is discouraging them rather than encouraging them. And I think that's a very negative way of running the country.
Yeah, completely agree. Completely agree. It's I like the way you approach it though. You know that the song is first off is a song, so it's not an outright protest. You touch on all the points that it impacts. You touch on how it impacts. You touch on maybe who has done that impact and how maybe not how that can be fixed, but it's a nice note to the fact of looking at the positives and why that negative is an issue, i.e. the positives of the importance of that family farm, as you said in this and also in the song, Andy. And yeah, no, I very much like it. Big fan.
Thank you. No, I think I do think that works, and it works as a title track. And
Look at the second track, Best Show on Earth, which first off, an interesting title because that's very subjective and everyone will have a different opinion. But I believe there's a video that goes with that. Could we have a quick listen or watch? Listen on this podcast, obviously.
certainly, let's just give it a few. A few people have heard this already, but let's just refresh a little bit on this tune.
I can see the lights as we reach the smoke. It's nearly midnight, three of us in a float. And still the traffic is a joke as we head to the best show on earth. We're far too early, they won't let us in yet. So a random car park and out we get. A few whiskeys and gins before the vet as we head to the best show on earth.
And then, so what's the story then? What's the story with this one?
Well, this is probably the first song that I wrote that was going to make it onto this album, really, and it's a subject very close to my heart. And we've already had a chat about it earlier on because it was the first podcast that I did as well. So I suppose you can see where it sits in my emotional order, really, and it tells that story of the journey down to Smithfield with those show cattle back in those days, and the anticipation and a whole year's work, and then meeting up with old mates, and the whole thing being in central London and being at Christmas, and it was exceptional, really. And I think it tells that story really of getting down there and then unloading the animals on the ramp and just getting into the show. It's not about the whole Smithfield show. It's about the sort of a song about the snapshot of that, the culmination of that year's work, just coming into that 24-hour slot, really, of taking those animals down to that great show on Earth. And I mentioned earlier on, I've still got all those sounds and smells and sights still in my head. And every year, this time of year, Smithfield Show Week round about now, and we've done different things on the podcast over the last years. We've had a kiss party, Smithfield kiss parties, where all the old Smithfield mates have got on there and got drunk, and we've all told stories. A lot of this has been rolled and rolled around. This is another way of looking at it, I suppose. And this last week in November, first week in December, then I thought, well, if I had a video with that, and there's a guy called John Burrell had put a video up. I don't know where he got it from, of somebody bringing a wagon down to Smithfield with a few cattle back in the early 70s. So I kind of put that video to this and thought it might just strike a chord with some of my old muckers. And it's nearly 20 years since that the show last folded, as I said, and it's found a larger audience now. I think that video has sort of it's gone viral, but it's still moving about. And I will openly admit it made me cry when I wrote that song. That's how much emotion was invested into that event, really, and it still brings a lump in my throat now. And I think the lyrics would apply as well to a lot of other shows around the world. Well, it's not. Yeah, the best show on earth, as you said, is subjective. To me, it was the Royal Smithfield show. To the guys in the States, it'll be going to Chicago back in those days, or maybe now to Denver, or what the other big shows are, and different people around the world and different people around the UK as well, taking that animal to that show, and the anticipation that it is there about that. And you had to have been there maybe to have done that, and those that haven't maybe won't quite see it in the same way. But yeah, we're back into the winter shows now. Yeah, personally, the winter shows to me are my favorite ones. This is the season that I've always loved with the fat stock shows, and we're right there, almost getting to the end of it now, and it's still where my heart is. Despite my love of sheep, it's still the fat stock shows are still where my heart is. So, yeah, it's me pouring a little bit of my heart into that, and I think it comes together really nicely in that song.
We're in the week of of the Welsh Winter Fair at the minute, and I was going to ask you. You mentioned they're quite emotional writing it. If when you listen back to this, which I'm sure you have many a time, Andy, how does it almost taking the writer Andy out of it for a second, and the creator and the leader of the AI, if you will, sit and listening to it? How does it make you feel when you listen?
Oh, absolutely. I think people have been coming up to me this week. I've been in Aberdeen this week and coming up and saying, "Well, I love the song." People have sent me so many nice messages, and it makes me feel the same. I think it really does bring it brings home, yeah, that emotion, and it is. It's just a huge emotion. I mean, people out there, they have emotions when they've been to a football match or a rugby match or whatever it might, other things might have done, within that life. That's something they maybe do as a hobby rather than their work. And the Smithfield show, fat stock showing for all one or two people might be quite professional at it. It isn't something you earn a living at. It is a hobby, and it was a sport. And to be able to go to the pinnacle of that sport and compete in the pinnacle of that sport, I think that brings down those emotions. And I think that probably would apply to a lot of other people within life. But no, it brings a tear to my eye still, a lump in my throat.
20 years on without that 2 decades, a third of your life, is there anything that in any way matches it since?
Well, no.
No.
No, I mean, I think one of the lines in there, there's nothing even comes as close as the atmosphere, that near a Smithfield show that time of year. No, I mean, love the Highland Show, Wallace, and meet up with you, meet up with everybody at the Highland Show. I love it. That's the summertime of it. And in the olden days, the Royal Show would have been close because the Royal Show was the culmination of the Royal Cornwall Show and the Norfolk Show and the Turriff Show and the Highland Show, and everybody all got together at the Royal Show. That was like everybody all met together, and Smithfield was the same as that, really. So, but the Highland Show, obviously, I love the Highland Show, and I'm involved in it the same as you are in a few different ways, and love it. The nearest thing to it, but a million miles from Smithfield, where Smithfield was, honestly, and I hate to bang on about it. I mean, the Live Scott and I suppose the biggest, probably the best show now in the UK, maybe the one in Carlisle, the Agri Expo there, and yeah, great show, and they've done a brilliant job of pulling that together in a much more commercial sense, and probably without quite the emotion that we had. And people are still having fun, and people are still doing it, and youngsters are still coming in, and those are the shows that they want to aim at, and yeah, can they recreate it? Stick it in the middle of London. Take all of that and stick it in the middle of London, and the sights and the sounds and the smells in the 1970s. Don't forget. I mean, we'd all head off up Soho. I'd be 16 years old when I first went there. All head up Soho down for the night and go and see all these bright lights and these sort of ladies of the night and all the young farmers down there, and all that as well combined with being in the central London. And that week in London was just so unforgettable because we didn't go to London. I go there now. My boys live there for a while. I go there and I still want to wash when I leave it. That sounds a horrible thing to say, but I don't particularly enjoy city life anyway. But to go there for that 1 week, it was just, it was brilliant. And then you were bloody glad to get home and get your boots on and get out in the mud when you got back, because it's a totally different life. So I suppose it was special because it was in the centre of a city, a vibrant city, and it was Christmas time too.
Adds to the sheer novelty of it all. And at the heart of all this, Andy, so much of your life, so much of my life, so much of everything in this album, and so much of what you've done is real people, in particular real farmers, which takes us on quite nicely to the third song in the album. Can we hear a little bit about that?
Sure, yeah. I mean, I'll just play a brief clip of that.
All of this in the pouring rain, and sawed a pipe to save the plumber. And this is just the middle of summer. Drop some hay on promise of sun. Spin it out, it'll soon be done. 3 more hours before it'll bail. 1 hour later there's rain and hail. Real farmers don't drive Range Rovers or smoke big fat cigars. Real farmers are the workers, they are the real food stars. Real farmers keep the lights on in this country we call ours.
There's Real Farmers. I think I really like the way Real Farmers is written. There's the nod to what they are, but also what they're not, which I was a big fan of. What was the inspiration on this? Why was this important?
It's a media thing, I think, and I mean, we live by you and I live by social media, or we certainly a lot of our lives by social media. We live very isolated places, but we can all be in contact through social media. But it's the media, the general media, really. I think how farmers are perceived in the media is skewed, and that rankles with me a little bit. And I think some of the things just have to be said. That the misinformation of the media that portrays the way it portrays the farmers probably needs just to be looked at, and it needs to be hard and looked at. And we all have an obligation to maybe do that. And I might upset a few people that. I'm Amanda Owen. My apologies if you're listening. There, I've talked about the Yorkshire Shepherdess, and it just how things like that and Jimmy's Farm and these things aren't really. What farming is about. They're what the public want to see and what the media want to show them as how farming is good or bad, and there's never any middle ground in that. And I should have mentioned the fact that Clarkson's did the best thing, but even he can't control the weather with all the money that he's got, and I quite like that line that real farmers keep the lights on. It's the real people out there that do the work in all weathers, and the public don't really want to see that. They don't want to see the guy lambing his sheep at 3 a.m. and a dead lamb, and him. I think This Farming Life made a great job of it. If I'm honest, farming has been portrayed in some good ways, but it's about showing people, I think, or telling people that the real farmers are those everyday guys, and that they're not necessarily the ones that are at the show showing the cattle, or the ones that. The line is real farmers don't drive Range Rovers or smoke fat cigars. It's not those wealthy landowners out there. The real farmers are the guys I suppose we're back to the family farm with a sort of 300 or 400 acres or 200 or 300 acres of tenanted farm, and out there working all the hours there to feed the nation, and do it because they love it. And I think that's. I think it gives a good message there as well. And Wendy thinks it should be an adopted anthem for farmers. But I think if I tried to get that out there, I'd probably get squashed by the national press for us being a bunch of whingers. So I don't really want to do that. But real farmers keep the lights on in the country, and I think it's a good message.
As we're sort of a period through the album, I guess, Andy, when and how were these written? You said you've been sort of writing lyrics down for some time. What made you choose the order you have, and what made you choose the songs in this album that you have? Because I assume, knowing you've got even more content there. What made you choose these in the order that they are?
Well, I think some of these have come about quite recently. Some of the songs I've written have been, lately, the things I write about getting old, because that's what you do when you get old. You write your memoirs, and then you start whinging about getting old, complaining that your back aches. And so some of those have come about that way, and some of them with grandchildren now and about new life and that sort of thing. The poems, I suppose, come in. But Real Farmers just came to me in a flash, and I think that was the one that probably started me putting this album together. Just watching or seeing something on the internet or what have you, of people just portraying farmers in their sort of twee. Again, about Amanda Owen, I think she was on, I don't know, James Martin or something, and just people seeing the farmers in the wrong light, really. So I started to get together on that, and then I knew there were some things in my background that I wanted to pull forward, and I've got one about a cow, which I don't know if you heard that one or not, about a cow called Volcano. That one had been in my head before. Did you hear that one, Wallace?
I did know. I wanted to ask you about it because it was probably going to be what I was moving on to anyway. We'll maybe hear a wee snippet about it for a second. Is that all right? Can we hear a minute?
Oh. Yeah, sure.
Now you guessed it, we're talking of a cow, the one that couldn't be tamed. Not sure who it was that called her that, but this cow was so well named. In a 3-year life, she'd had 3 owners, each owner letting her go, till a very greedy man
thought she might win the royal show. Well, back then I was keen, a brave young buck, when I took the call. Train that beast, of course I will, she'll be no trouble at all. I tied her up, she broke the rope, I shut her in a pen. And just from the way she looked at me, I saw the madness then.
The thing I wanted to ask about that, Andy, I am one of the very few people in Scotland. I think there's about 14 that are actually heir to a volcano. My dad owns a volcano, so when I saw volcano, I was like, "What on earth is this?" But it's not an actual volcano. But did you make that story up? Is it true? What's the story behind it? I guess
It's absolutely true, Wallace. It's true. It was a cow that she'd been. It was a blonde Aquitaine cow, and I live down amongst blonde Aquitaines now in France when I'm there. And this cow was just mental, and why she was named Volcano, how she was named Volcano, or when she was born, or whether it was a nickname, I don't know. But she'd had 3 owners in 3 years, and nobody could tame her at all. And then I do a bit of after dinner speaking these days, and I spoke to one of the breed societies, and I stood up and gave this thing and told this account about me taking this mad thing into the Grand Parade of the Royal Show, and how this thing took off, and I'm hanging on for grim death and on my heels, this thing heading off around the main ring, and I had them rolling about laughing, and it was really funny. I look back and I thought that actually is hilarious, and I probably didn't at the time, to be fair, back there in 1985. But yeah, this big ton of beef just herring off around the Highland, the Royal Show Grand Parade at sort of 30 miles an hour, me hanging on my heels and doing something called grass skiing. And I think I invented grass skiing there, and then really a bit like water skiing, but you do it in grass. So, yeah, it came out well. And yeah, you've been involved. Wallace, you've been at the Highland Show in the Grand Parade. I've seen some videos you've been there in the Grand Parade, and realizing sort of, in amongst the animals there, that there's a lot of animals going around that ring, and they all look very calm and what have you. But there's some flight risks among them still to this day.
Do you know what? I've done some pretty amazing things in the last few years. I've been lucky enough to be offered a lot of pretty cool opportunities, Andy. Some of which you've been involved in, to be honest, like RHS TV and whatnot. But being in that Grand Parade is the most humbling thing. It's surrounded by the best people in our livestock sector, the best animals, and unfortunately, well, luckily, I guess I should say, maybe unfortunately for you, we didn't have any volcanoes that time. It was very neat, and I'm just completely in awe at the quality of the stockspersonship and the animals themselves. But yeah, I think a volcano added into the mix would be quite an enjoyable experience. I want to ask you a particular thing about that. You've had 3 people who've tried and failed, as it were. What made you think this is a good one to take into the main ring at the Royal Show?
Jack the lad, really. I'm back there, I suppose, in my 30s. I earned my living, showing cattle for people and showing and grooming cattle for people. And this guy phoned up, well, a friend, or guy who became a good friend, in actual fact, said, "Well, we've got this cow." And in fact, he took it and trained it. Although I've sort of skewed the story a little bit, he took it and trained it. But we ended up, the owner, the guy who'd bought it, died now, so I won't mention his name, but he'd sold his farm for them to build a car factory on there in Middle England, and a few million in his pocket, and decided he was going to get into this breed. And he bought this cow, and it was a good cow, no doubt about it. But it was obviously a nutter. So yeah, he phoned me up, and yeah, sure, I'll train that, no problem. I can do anything. I'm invincible. And I realised, and I think, and we did listen through to the story in the song there, that we had to put a little bit of drugs involved to contain this beast. But no, a true story and great fun. I enjoyed it, and I think that comes out well as well. I'm really pleased that song came out, because it's quite uplifting and hilarious to anybody that's done that. Even if they haven't, it's still a funny story, And there's a few that have put onto this album as well as the political messages and some of the downer and upbeat messages I've tried to put out there. Some of these are they're actually just quite funny ditties that have come out there that will give somebody a laugh, and I think hopefully that one will.
With the majority of the people that listen to this podcast, Andy, I can only assume, have worked with stock at some point in their life, be that showing, dozing, mustering, whatever. Yep. And one of the things that somewhat comes with the territory is a bit of an argument. A lot of couples work together in this sector. You get husbands and wives, boyfriends and girlfriends, whatever. And sometimes when you come in, everyone's all friends, but there's times out there in the field that that's not the case. And you've captured this very well. You've got one about a couple that are having a bit of a dispute. Is that from yourself and your own wife that's been written about, or is that just a generalization?
I think probably not. I guess my wife and I will have plenty of disputes, as everybody does. But I love this. I just picture this couple in there, maybe into their their 40s or 50s, and just him going out to work every day and her being in the house, and it's called "Why Would You Do It?" And it literally is. And my wife is a big fan of Victoria Woods. It goes back Victoria. Well, she's died now, sadly, but she did a great sketch similar to this years ago, I think called Betty and Frida, or Brian and Frida or something, where this couple were having this row, and it must have been in the back of my head somewhere, but I just seen this, this wife saying, for God's sake, why are you doing this? And he's going, well, I do it because I love it, and I do it because I really need to, and he's just like panicking, but trying to explain himself. And there's a lovely line in there somewhere: if I couldn't do my farming, I'd rather choose castration, or even worse, I'd go on my holidays. It's just I just got this guy. It's pictured in my head somewhere. I think it's just it comes out no, and it ends well. It ends quite nicely as well. And my wife said, for God's sake, what are you putting this on here for? But it actually ends quite nicely, that she sort of eventually comes around to the fact that if he's going to have to do this bloody farming, then for God's sake, get out there, good feed those cows, they're making a noise. So it was fun.
Can we get a little snippet of that one as well?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, sure. I'll find you a line from that will
Excellent.
make you laugh.
Or even worse, go on me holidays. Why would you do it? There's the wife again. Why would you do it? Can you see it plain? Why would you do it? Your back is on the blink. Why the hell do you do it? And why'd you always stink?
Excellent. I think it captures so much reality about, it's we hear it often, don't we, about the sector we're in. I know you and I, Andy, aren't full-time farming, but just that there's something so lovely and romantic about it, but there's also some times where that is not the word you'd choose to explain it, and tempers get a bit frayed. But
You've got to question it. There's another one on there about, I think, with sheep, and I think it's called sheep for sheep's sake, and it's a similar thing. It's like, for God's sake, why do you keep these sheep? Sheep for sheep's sake, can you really take the headache? And it's like, why do you do these things? And I think we all have those questions in our head. Someone, we get these questions asked. It's at a dinner party with somebody, and they say, what do you do? Oh, I'm a farmer. And so, well, what do you do? So, why do you do your farming? You think, you scratch your head, think, you wouldn't understand. You really wouldn't. You wouldn't have a clue if I told you. So I don't. So I think it picks up a few of those. Pick up the reality of the questioning that we do and other people do to why people do the farming that we do. So yeah, I'm pleased with that.
You throw in a few rhymes throughout Sheep's Sake Headache there, talking about Smithfield atmosphere. How does it come up round and round every year? How's that? I can't remember that line now. You know the bit I'm talking about. You throw rhymes in anyway throughout quite a bit. Did you come up with them all yourself, or did AI assist you in those?
Oh, absolutely myself. No, AI's never been involved in any of the writing that I've done.
Okay.
All that's always in my head. The rhyme. I've been quite good with rhymes. I wrote a. You probably won't remember this, but I wrote a book about the Daisy Deathwish, who Daisy became quite a character on the internet going back. Well, she's probably been dead 10 years now, and she lived till she was 10 years. So going back a while, and Daisy, with this sheep that we had, and she just kept trying to find imaginative ways to die, and she had this massive following on Facebook and Instagram and everywhere else, and they're all wishing her well, and she's managed to survive and survive again. And I wrote a 6,000-word poem into a book about Daisy's antics. So yeah, I can pull. Sometimes I use a thesaurus, or there's online thesaurus now to pick up some of the rhyming, but yeah, the rhymes, that's all me.
Yeah. It's funny that I've got a bit of a brain for that as well. If you give me a couple of words, I could couple them together at rhymes. But I mean, not 6,000 words worth for sure. But I actually probably need to pick your brains away from this podcast, Andy, because I have finished a book it's a children's book, but still finished a book and yeah, just trying to tweak it and put that final little touch on it, I guess. So I might be
Excellent.
picking your brains.
Excellent. Well, I started off writing children's books, and I still love it now. It's still the most fun you can have. It's not an easy market to get in and sell, I assure you. Not an easy market at all, but writing children's books is probably the most fun anybody can have by themselves. So good luck to you on that one.
Do you know what? I haven't had it illustrated. I've got a friend of mine, a really good friend of mine, who have worked together on Young Farmer stuff, going to illustrate it. But I passed the text around all of the schools on Aaron because it's about Aaron, and yeah, it's went quite well. I don't really care if it makes me money. You know, it's just one of those sort of wee passion projects. But that's a different thing. But Andy, your podcast where we're on talking at the minute it doesn't work if it's just you. That's no offense to you. It's very important that you're the host, but you also have guests on pretty much all episodes. And you've managed that in this as well. You've got a couple of guests on in here. Tell us about that.
I have. A friend of mine, Nigel Hamill. I think Nigel's in hospital at the moment. Hello, Nigel. Hope you're listening. And Nigel introduced me to a guy called Graham Bell, and Nigel's very much. He's always been around and about in the livestock world, bred some great cattle and sheep, and a good businessman as well, and been president of the Angus Cattle Society. And but he loves his folk music, and he used to take his guitar and sit down in the lines of the stockman and just play a few songs down, and everybody loved that. And so Nigel and I sort of worked together on a bit of Angus stuff, and he introduced me to Graham Bell and a song that he'd got. So. And Graham and I had done one earlier on about a song he'd written called the Eskdale Drover, about the sort of droving trail. He'd given me I'd read that and put it out on one of our podcasts. And when he came to, Nigel said, well, he's got this song about the cow and the black and white bull. And it was just, he sent me the lyrics. Well, it was absolutely hilarious about, I've called it a Yorkshire love song, but it's the guy with his, cow, and he wants to take it to the bull, the lady down the road, and the young lady's rather gorgeous, so he's going down there and walking his cow down the road to go and see this bull, and he's a bit apprehensive that he might get himself involved in a bit of the action with her as well. So it turns out, and it comes out with a great ending as well. So they said that, and we just put it to music, and it's come out as a folk song, and it's lovely. And I also chased Fiona Sloane and Fiona Fletcher now. Fiona Sloane Fletcher Sloane. Not quite sure what she calls herself. And Fiona, good friend of mine. You'll know her. She's your part of the world. And we were in Argentina. We've known Fiona for a long time. We all went to Argentina together through the field farm tours. And every day Fiona we'd go and visit these farms and do these things. And every morning she'd sit on the bus and she'd have written sort of 3 or 4 verse poem about what we'd done the day before, so I thought she was ideal to put something together on this. But she'd written a song she'd written it to the tune of Country Roads, and I had to change the music a little bit on that because I didn't want to get into copyright issues with that, but based on the lovely area where she is down in Dumfriesshire. So yeah, it was nice to have her on as well. I'm afraid that she's got a great voice, a beautiful voice. She sings in the Farmers Choir, and I probably haven't done that full justice, maybe, but yeah, it's nice to have a couple of contributions in there, and I'd like to do a little bit more working with these people as well if we carry on doing some more of this.
I was quite excited to see you mention Dumfries, albeit I don't live there anymore. It's always going to have a place in my heart, I think, is Dumfries. And we're 29 days out at the time of recording, Andy. I don't know exactly when this goes out, but we can't be far off from the big day, from Christmas. You're going for Christmas #1. You've got a Christmas song in here as well.
You never know. I mean,
you don't.
I think every band in the world also one Christmas #1. I mean, Slade's still in £2 million a year for Noddy shouting "It's Christmas," so, which I've got a pressing of the original recording showing my age again. But so yes, a Christmas song. And I mentioned this to Alex actually and John at Farmstrong, saying perhaps we should do a Christmas thing. So I've kind of made it an upbeat message. Really, it started a bit of fun. I asked Wendy to kick some ideas about what the message can be put out there. And message is quite simple, really. That if you look after yourself and your others, and you take care of your well-being, then every day should be like Christmas Day. And that's sort of come out there. And it's come out a really catchy tune. And I can't take the credit for the tune here. I did let the machine. I said, right, carry on in the genre, and it's a little bit sort of more of a pop song, I suppose. And hey, it could. Probably needs a bit of Simon Cowell behind it, but it could easily hit make something in the charts there, and it'd be nice to be picked up by the radio and everybody all the young farmers. There you go. You're a young farmers. You're still involved in Young Farmers. Well, it's just about, I think, and put that out to the Young Farmers fraternity and get them to adopt this as their Christmas #1. It's quite fun.
Here, I'm still on the communications and marketing committee. I'm the sort of past chair, so I was national chair last year, and also play a part. Well, I don't play the part. I'm on the board. So if there's anything you want us to do here, I will do as much as I can. I'm not saying I can do anything, but let's see what we can do. We'll have a chat after.
Yep.
Obviously, Christmas #1's a big stretch, but it'd be quite fun to see how far it could go.
That'd be great. That'd be great.
If you can be really happy with yourself and keep an eye on each other's mental health, make a serious effort in every way. No reason why it can't always feel like Christmas Day. Whether you're a farmer or just involved, there are always problems to be solved. But try and take it easy, don't get stressed. These things will put you to the test. Living well isn't just a Christmas tree. Starting with the diet, watch out what you eat. A little exercise, it helps the flow. Maybe take a walk out in the snow.
A couple of other tracks, and I won't go through them all. There's one called "This Is Now," which is, I really loved it when I wrote it. And it probably doesn't belong on this album, but I wrote it. It's about getting old and realizing that when you started out in life, there was kind of no blueprint and no manual of what you do. You start off, don't really know where you're going to go, and you'll know that as a lecturer. You know that with your own life, I suppose, a little bit. To sort of you look back at the memories and that you've gained, and maybe pass on that wisdom to the young ones. And I've got grandchildren now. I suppose that put it to me, and I love the idea that we realize when you're younger, or maybe you realize when you're younger, there's nobody told you how it was going to go. You just got to feel your way through life, and then that one came back to me a little bit too.
So hear me now, you generations down. Don't let that smile turn into a frown. There was a time when life was new. There was a time, I'm sure you've been there too.
You maybe don't know this, Andy, but you gave me a fair bit of advice at Three Counties show this year that stuck with me quite notably, and it's quite funny. I mean, if you were to, so I'm 28, if you were to say to your 28-year-old self, if you were to pass something on to it, I feel like this song is what that is. But my question for you, I guess, is, would you want to know that information, or would you rather do what you've done with your career and just go as it is and see what you find out, or would you like to know what you tell the younger person in this song?
That's a good question. I think most people, and farming is an exception to that, really. But most people, they go into life with an idea, or going into college with an idea that's what they're going to do the rest of their lives. And people have got the balls, I suppose. And sorry, ladies, I didn't mean that in a bad way, but to say, well, I've done this for 3 years. I don't like doing this. I want to do something else. And I've changed my tack a few times in life. And there's no blueprint. There's no manual to say, well, this is right and this is wrong. The careers officer that we used to go and see, they'd say, well, you join the army or you become a doctor, or that's pretty much, otherwise you just go out there and get a job. I suppose, no, that's a good thought, actually. Would you like to know exactly what your life's going to be in Formula 8? You're going to do the rest. You're going to be an accountant because your dad did it, and that's what you're going to stay and do the rest of your life until you retire, and then your next generation do it. No, maybe not. But it's nice to reflect on the fact that you have the chance and you wing it. Winging it's fun.
Winging it is fun, and at the end of, I've asked you these questions, and at the end of every podcast I film my own brand. I ask 2 questions, one of which is, where do you see yourself in 5 years' time? And I ask it because I don't really care what folks say. I'm more interested in how they process the question, because my answer is I absolutely have zero idea, zero, and that's worked well. I've like fun things, personal life things, professional life things come up. You can channel it, but for sure I quite like the concept of what's next. But that bit of advice is always welcome.
Yeah.
You've mentioned Farmstrong Scotland. We'll go on to that in just a wee second. There's one more thing I want to say about that. Before, I worked with the Yellow Wellies last year on a Keep Talking campaign, and one of the things that we did, which I must say was quite awkward, but I got a lot from it, was we sat on camera and we picked up our own phone, as we all have, and we phoned people and said, before anything else was said, "Love you, mate." Right? And I say that to quite a few people, but when they started saying, "Now you're going to more than just your friends that you say it to anyway," it started to get a bit awkward. And one of the responses that one of the other guys got was, someone, he picks up the phone and he goes, "Love you, mate," and his very Irish friend goes, "Talk to me," and that talk to me thing stuck in my head. Having that friend there that's ready to be at the other side of the phone, that's ready to be there when you need to speak to them, and that ties into what I think is the last track of your album, called "Phone a Friend." Nice bit of advice, but what's the reason for the placement of that in the album?
I rewrote this track quite a few times actually because I didn't want it to be too depressing, and I wrote it originally as, look, you're really in the shit, then phone these people and they'll help you, and went through a few sort of shit scenarios and why you would and they help, and I wanted it to get a little bit more uplifting than that, and it is a talk, and I've got friends now. We'll ping. I've got a mate at the moment, ping that, shittiest year you could possibly have, and you phone him, it'll be fine. We'll get through it. Everything will be fine, and you know that you need to prize a bit out of it, and it isn't a phone always. It's a WhatsApp message or a Snapchat or whatever, how it goes through, and just how you doing, mate? Are you okay? And likewise, if you're in a bad way, you don't phone somebody and say, "Shit, I've had a shit week," but you phone them up and say, "How you doing?" and it gets round to we talk, and then that comes out a little bit, and it comes back in spades, doesn't it? Really, and I think the Christmas song, I sort of put that same message in a little bit. But I listened back to that actually yesterday, and I wrote this one quite a while ago actually, and it puts a message across, I think, as I intended, that we do need to keep talking to each other. And there's a line, I think, saying "a dead lamb there in the dark shouldn't really have this much effect on me," and it shouldn't, but it's just when everything else is compounded around that, and I suppose it encourages hope out of desperation, really. And not that that's a great rock track as well, which is sort of good to end with. But no, it definitely, I think, is something we should all take heed of. And you don't have to be 65 to do that. You do it when you're 16 or 18. It's the same thing.
Well, on the 2nd of December, I'm going to post a video that I took on the 2nd of December last year, where I was probably at the second lowest I've been in my entire life. And to look back at that time in life wasn't that bad. It really wasn't. But things were bad, and that I filmed that video because I wanted to see where I was in 365 days. And about 2 minutes after that, I phoned my mum, and she's like, "Get on the boat, come and see us." And that was all it took to get out of that, start that process. It took a month, but start that process. And it's amazing how much maybe we're in the lucky position, Andy, where we've got that family around us, but most people have got someone there that cares, and it's a really nice note to end on. And as you say, it approaches a stark topic without being depressing, which is really nice. It's still quite upbeat in general, which is a nice sort of note, I guess, to one of the groups involved in this. You've already mentioned John Scott and the rest of the extended team at Farmstrong Scotland. You want to do this in conjunction with them. Why is that?
I think there's Rossabi and there's Farmstrong. I mean, they're both similar but different. The Farmstrong idea was a blueprint before it got to the Farmstrong Scotland, because it had already been done in New Zealand, and the message that the New Zealand guys came to put in out to the Scottish farming community, which is extended across the UK now very much, that we all need to look after our well-being, and it's a simple message, really. It's like, for God's sake, and it's just like, eat better, lose a bit of weight. You go to the doctor, say, "I don't feel very well." Eat a bit less. I want to lose some weight. Eat a bit less. Run a bit more, burn a few calories off there. Go and and go and have a chat with a few people. It's a fairly simple message, but it's a great thing that the Farmstrong do. That sort of as a portal, really, to work with people. With everybody, really, with people, to offer them the services of a website, and people to talk to, and peer-to-peer seminars and such like, that's specifically aimed at farmers, that we're all in this together. And I think that's something that we need to embrace, and I think they do a fantastic job. And it costs money to run a company like that, and great that I can put a little bit a little bit or a lot, I don't know. It depends, you listeners out there. If you're gonna download this album and maybe go onto that for £10, you can download all these fantastic tracks. It at your will, and the money will go all of it go to Farmstrong. So, yeah, it's a great collaboration, I hope.
It's very kind of you. I mean, you've put work into this. You could have taken, at least a portion. So yeah, very, very noble, Andy. And yeah, I think about 10 minutes before we came on this call tonight, I put a post out for Farmstrong, just encouraging those to do the survey. Now, I think if you're listening to this podcast, it's got about an hour left, from what I understand. But yeah, I've been very impressed with them. Much mirror a lot of what you say. Your RABIs, your RSABIs, your Samaritans out with, much more encompassing than just agriculture is great. But like Farmstrong is almost there to reduce the requirement for them, creating a more positive lifestyle. And it's great. And they changed my life. I mean, they didn't know they changed my life, but they got in touch with me and asked me to do that abseil off the world's tallest distillery. Don't need to mention it's in Leith. And I was 19.7 kilos too heavy, and I had 11, 30, 41. I had 46 days to lose that. And I did it, and I've continued to do that. And, the goal is being 50 kilos down, of which I'm about 32 through. And it's changed my whole outlook. It really has. I mean, life is so much more. Life is, first off, physically easier. And yeah, so much. I just think what they do across the board is fantastic. So very, very good year to put towards that, I think. Very good.
Well, thank you. And Wallace, we just go on to that. I mean, in that year that's changed for you, and I mean, you're the guest here. I shouldn't be asking you the questions, but I know we've hung on till this week because you've done your Nuffield last year. People will know about that, and you've been very very vocal about what Nuffield has done for you. But in the last couple of months, you've been out there in China, and that's somewhere I know Cammy was out there. Cammy Wilson was out there in China as well, and it's somewhere that none of us know much about. A mystique sort of a place, really. And you've been lucky, fortunate, or in the right place at the right time, or just maybe put your hand up for it. But you've been out in China. Tell us a little bit now, turning myself around back into the guest host for a second, about what you did in China and what you learnt from it, Wallace.
It's funny you mentioned Cammy there, Andy, because Cammy, Gareth Wynne-Jones and I think there was about a 36-hour period all of us were in China. Different parts, all with completely different. Well, Cammy's and Gareth's were similar agendas, similar sort of things. Mine was totally different. But yeah, did I just put my hand up? Did I whatever? Yeah, pretty much all those things. I think, to be fair, you mentioned my Nuffield. For those that don't know, Nuffield's a global travel scholarship where you get paid X amount of money. It's about 18,000, about 8 of which goes into your bank, to basically travel the world and lead positive change in agriculture on whatever your topic is. And my topic was slamming doors open, pathways into agriculture through rural education, youth groups, and consumer engagement. And I'd sort of travelled to 6 continents in about 11 months, and I've been to 21 countries or 16 countries, depending on what you count. And I'd seen some fantastic things. And I sort of sat down one day and I was like, haven't actually looked at the UK. I lectured in Scotland for 4 years, so sort of know that system pretty well in and out, because it's only really one company. There's a few others doing sort of more foundation topics for sure, but understand the SRUC system, being actively involved in moving it in the direction it has. So I went to England and Wales across a 5-day week, Monday to Friday in May this year. I went to 8 institutions, and one was RAU, what most folk will know as Cirencester. And I was just getting shown around there, and I'd sort of said, is there anything that stands you out from the rest, to Karen, who's one of the deans? And she said, well, domestic intake, domestic recruitment's a challenge, and it is across the board. That's not an RAU thing, that's a most places thing. SRUC are completely curbing that trend, which is phenomenal. And we're looking at international, not only bringing international students in, but also sort of sending staff out. And they've got 5 universities in China. They've got one in Sharjah in the UAE. They've got one in Uzbekistan. They've got one in Ukraine, which is somewhat not operating at the minute, unfortunately. And I said, well, I just sort of said to her, I was like, well, I'm a lecturer. I'm quite keen to travel. If you ever need someone, hit me up. Definitely thought that was one of those never going to happen things. And 2 weeks later, she'd phoned and said, can we get enrolled? So yeah, 3 months after that, I was heading out on a flight to Qingdao Agricultural University, which I believe is is the third biggest agricultural university in China and the sixth biggest in Asia. I think it seems to be differing wherever you check, but the campus itself is like a city. Phenomenal place. Pushes them too far, I would say. You start work at 8 in the morning and you're there till half 8 at night, and that's just staff. It's intense. It's too intense, to be fair, I think, Andy. And I mentioned that in my Nuffield presentation. The students will be there 7 days a week. It pushes you hard, but amazing to see sort of other students. The quality of work, which I've just had moderated in the last hour, is like nothing I have nor ever will see if I'm not in China again. I mean, the quality is phenomenal, but they're pushed to the bone. So yeah, I was lecturing out there for 5 weeks, which was an amazing experience. And yeah,
can I ask lecturing on what? Sorry to butt in there. Can I ask lecturing on what exactly? Well,
yeah,
not exactly,
so to food processing students and also to agriculture students covering topics. So there's global meat chains, which is looking at the sort of food security and global production angle of meat across the board. So all the way from beef to white fish to, you know, everything you think of, really, pretty much across the board, including insects. Advanced dairy systems. So yeah, what they're seeing in sort of Mudanjiang, which is the biggest dairy farm in the world, 115,000 cattle, I think it is.
Jesus. Okay.
Yeah, it's 28,000 people live there for the farm. I mean, purely for the farm. There's a school and everything for the farm. And then also, and I always struggle with this title, sustainable business in agri-food systems. So I was to talk about policy, but let me tell you, that was a dangerous game to talk too close to the bone on policy. So yeah, fascinating country, really interesting. The one thing that I tell everyone when they ask me is I've been lucky enough to go to a lot of different countries lately, as you know, Andy. 209 days of travel in the last 2 years.
Wow.
And everywhere you go, you have this thing, and I'm showing Andy my phone, that you can get in touch with everyone. And that's not really the case in China. You've got to do a lot of work to be able to send your girlfriend, to be able to send your mum and dad.
I seem to remember you saying that to me, because I think I sent you a message, and it's like,
that's right.
Yeah, I'll get back to you when I get some phone reception. It's like, Jesus, Wallace, you live on your phone. How can that work?
Yeah, so that's China. That's China. So yeah, amazing experience. Would strongly encourage anyone to go. Yeah.
Okay, brilliant. No, well, that's phenomenal that you've done that. And we said, well, we've gone through this, so we won't go through it again. But I mean, that will open doors for you now to do more. So you probably see yourself traveling maybe a bit more, or maybe being the ambassador. I've no idea where that'll go with you. You probably don't know either. But encouragement to people, to do the Nuffield, because that opens those doors for you. And a clap to Nuffield for everything it does for everybody, but also to encourage people to get out there and just give it a go. Try something different.
I would completely agree. I mean, apart from the Next Gen Scholars, which is a new concept that Nuffield have done, up to 18 to 24-year-olds that have a pre-arranged study tour, 30 days on dairy or poultry or now regen ag next year. Apart from those 6 who were phenomenal for the age. I was the youngest on the stage, which meant quite a lot to me, actually.
Okay.
But yeah, phenomenal experience. I would strongly encourage folk to sign up. And a note to my own podcast, not in any way to plug it and take your viewership, but I put an episode just last week called My Nuffield Journey, and it takes you through the whole journey across all the countries. But what it also does at the end is says, absolutely go for this, but there's these things that you're probably not aware of if you go for it. So it covers off the things that I think need mention. So yeah,
nice.
Yeah.
Okay, let's do a plug for each other then. Just give me yours first then. So where are we going to catch that journey and to hear Wallace in your 400 odd episodes?
Yeah, it's in the process of a rebrand, but currently it's still called R2 Cast. So it was based on the brand Rural to Kitchen. So letter R, number 2, letter K, Cast.
Okay.
Okay. Nice.
And you guys obviously listening to the Top Lines and Tales, but with regards to my ridiculous venture that I've just embarked on, I hope you all buy into this. And if you're a livestock lover, doesn't mean you don't like music, but also it doesn't mean that you do like music either. So take it either way. But we're on Bandcamp, so it's toplinesandtales.bandcamp.com. So look that up or look on the Top Lines and Tales page. But you'll find this album. I'll be pushing it out there a little bit, and let's see if we can raise some money for Farmstrong, and hopefully you'll enjoy some of the songs that we put out there, and I'll take some critique from anybody. And if you want to download it and give it to somebody else, I think there's a way of buying a gift card, so you can pay that and give it to somebody else for a Christmas gift or something. So let's try and raise a bit of money for there, and try and have a bit of fun listening to some of these, and let's not get too down about some of the political messages that I'm doing out there. But please share.
It's just on that. It's a digital version, isn't it?
Yes, digital
Yeah,
version.
yeah.
I have been asked to do a CD version. It's not going to come out this side of Christmas, so you can't buy a CD for it, unfortunately, just now. But I will, if the demand is there, we will knock out a few hundred CDs and put them for sale. But it'll maybe be later in the year, because that takes a little bit of setting up, and I don't have the time or the bandwidth just now to do it.
No, excellent. Well, very exciting times, Andy. And yeah, having listened to all bar about 2, just because I never got a chance to listen to them. If you are listening to this, I strongly encourage you to go and buy it, not only to support Andy, but also to support, well, most importantly, to support Farmstrong as well. And it's also thank you to you, Andy, for letting me be part of this as well. It's been great fun.
Brilliant. Well, we're involved in something new in a lot of ways. New because I've had a guest host interviewing me on my pod, or me being on the podcast as a guest and a guest host, and also new because I'm putting out an album. At 65, I'm putting out my first album. I know what it's like to interview a rock star. I don't know, Wallace. You'll have to ask you but and putting that out there and hopefully putting out something that people will enjoy, and we're doing a charity job as well. So there's a lot of firsts coming on here, which is nice that Top Lines and Tales is still doing a bit of pioneering work.
Excellent. Exciting times.
All right. Wallace, thank you very much for taking that on. It's brilliant, and we'll catch up. Do you have yourself a good festive season now and a bit of downtime, and keep in touch and keep your travels going, and keep chasing your dreams, pal.
Very kind of you. Thank you very much, mate. You too.
All the best.
When things don't go well, when you've had a day from hell, going through a real bad spell, just phone a friend. Just phone a friend.
Mad? Yes, I might be mad, but I've enjoyed making this record. I hope that it brings some pleasure to you, and I really do hope that you can help to add towards the charity Farmstrong, and go to toplinesandtales.bandcamp.com. I'll load the URL onto our Facebook page as well. So from me quite late at night on a Thursday there. Hope you enjoyed tonight's podcast with Wallace there. It's always great to have a chat with him. And as always, of course, I'd like to thank our sponsors, Harborough, for their continued support. And here we are, 5 years on. So thank you to Harborough for what they've done for us. And please make sure that you pop down to Harborough and find out what they can do for you. So thank you very much again for listening to this week's Top Lines and Tales podcast, and for supporting us for those 5 years. And I hope you find this slightly diverse podcast enjoyable, and we can continue on this journey there with Top Lines and Tales.